Ringo was the first guy in the Beatles to really turn us on to country music, but he was heavy into country.
And then I thought, maybe I could get T-Bone to do an EP. And I said, have you got any songs? He says, yeah, I got 9.
T-Bone's, as a producer, is kind of a vibe guy, right?
Yeah.
What were his sessions like?
They're relaxed.
Hello, and welcome to Revolution 2
through 8.
I'm your host, Dylan, and with me, as always,
is Zach.
Last time you joined us, we looked at a super group. We looked at 5 very talented musicians who came together and created something very special. Today, we're focusing on one super special person who has a lot of interesting, very talented collaborators, but this does not make them a super group. Today, we're looking at Ringo Starr's latest studio album, Look Up. Before we get too into the music and the album, want to take this moment to discuss any current music events that might be on your mind.
So this is a country music album. Speaking of country music, I'm going to go see Beyonce for her Cowboy tour at the end of July, and it's her very last concert. And it was more expensive than the concert the night before. So I wonder if it's special. I've never been to the last concert on a tour before.
Oh, that is interesting. I don't think I have any upcoming concerts that I'm going to.
There's one you could go to.
I've learned that one of the collaborators on the Ringo album, his name is Billy Strings. He'll be playing in my neck of the woods this summer. The other thing that's interesting and isn't really concert related, Lorde put out a new album. When an artist releases like special editions of albums, like sometimes with vinyl records, they'll make them special colors, or they'll make them like with Look Up. You can buy it now on Ringo's website in special white vinyl. Okay. With the Lorde album, you can buy a CD, which comes in a special clear CD. This is hilarious because CDs don't work if they're clear. You need that metallic reflection in order for the music bits to work. So basically you're buying a bit of a doorstop, and that's fine if you know what you're getting into. Like, a lot of people, as I understand it, buy vinyl records with no intent to ever play them. They buy them simply as merch, as a physical object. So if you view this clear CD in the same way, that's totally fine. I get the impression that some fans thought it would play though, and they were a little distressed by that.
Video games are kind of moving towards that direction where you buy the special edition. Doesn't even come with the game anymore.
Oh, sure, yeah. You get the steel case version of a video game, and it's just a fancy container for the download code. Yeah, that's true.
I also am admit I'm in that camp of vinyl people because I live in an apartment, so I don't really have a hi-fi setup. Not going to invest in one while I still live in an apartment.
Sure. As for me, I do have a hi-fi setup, though I do have to admit, since I've moved within the last couple of years, I do have good intentions to set that back up, but we will see how long it takes for me to actually do that.
And, speaking of how long it takes to do things, this is Ringo's first album since 2019. And this is a special album. This is Ringo's country album.
This isn't Ringo's first foray into country music. When they first went solo from the Beatles in the 70s, Ringo had an album called Beaucoup of Blues, which was very country inspired. Full disclosure, I haven't listened to that record.
Neither have I.
All right, so we're in good company. What I have listened to are the tracks that Ringo has sang lead vocals on for the Beatles, and a lot of them are very country. Some of them are direct covers of popular country songs from the 50s and 60s.
And we mentioned one, Act Naturally.
Act Naturally, a Buck Owens song. The other ones, let's see, he did Matchbox. That was Carl Perkins. I think they did another Carl Perkins song. Oh, Honey Don't. Honey Don't was Carl Perkins as well. I think Honey Don't's probably better than Matchbox as far as Beatles recordings. It's been a while since I've listened to the Carl Perkins originals. And then there is the What Goes On track, the only track I think that is credited to Lennon, McCartney, and Starkey. I really like that track.
Oh, it's a great song.
That one's very good. Even as they evolve, Ringo seemed to always hang on to that sound. His songwriting contribution, his first solo songwriting contribution, which was on the White Album, Don't Pass Me By, it has a fiddle solo, and it's kind of, country bluegrass to an extent.
Mhm.
And even re-listening to Octopus's Garden, like, I don't know that I've ever contextualized it this way before, but yeah, that song is basically a country song.
It's more pop. I think it's too poppy to be a country song.
I don't know. The guitar's got enough twang to it.
But you have to remember that part of the song is a little bit too silly sounding for a country song.
Country songs can be very silly, and country songs can have tight harmonies. That doesn't disqualify them from being country songs.
No way. I didn't know Octopus's Garden was a country song. Who would ever have thought? I've never thought of it that way. I've just thought of it as one of the greatest songs of all time. Now you're telling me it's a country song. Whoa.
I hope you were sitting down when you received that news.
Now I'm happy that I know this. There's so many different perspectives of Ringo. So Ringo, as a singer, let's talk about him really quick as a singer before we go into
Sure.
the album. And so, do you like Ringo's voice?
I think it's fine.
I think it's fine too. I think Ringo has a uniquely good voice, maybe even if you're mean, average voice. But because of that, if you know his weaknesses, there's really nothing he can't touch. And because Ringo's a drummer, so it doesn't matter what song you put him on. If he's able to put an interesting drum part on there, I think I'm interested.
Sure. This album is very much playing into Ringo's strengths.
Yep.
And that's not me saying that. That's like Paul McCartney has said that. When he learned that Ringo was getting back into the country groove with this new album, Paul was like, oh yeah, that makes complete and total sense. Ringo, of us, was always the most tuned in to country and introduced us to a lot of those tracks. Of course, during his time with the Beatles, when they would pick songs for him to sing, for him to feature on the album, it wasn't necessarily that like they were just picking country songs for him. Like those were the songs that Ringo liked, and he would recommend them as well. So it works well. I haven't listened to a lot of newer country records. And full disclosure, I didn't really do a lot of that in preparation for this album either.
Neither did I.
What we did do is we took a slice of some of the collaborators on this album. Ringo sort of shares the spotlight with a couple of notable names in the country, blues, and bluegrass scene across the different tracks, and we listened to some of their albums to try and get a feel for them as solo artists. And at least in my estimation, my goal was to kind of see, okay, how does this feel as far as their work goes versus, do they come through with their own personality on the Ringo album, or is the Ringo album all kind of samey, or what's going on? So what was your experience like digging into some of these things?
I'm going to say, much like this album, I think everybody was solid. If there was never an album that I thought was an agonizing experience to get through, there's some really interesting, informative stuff. Almost all these artists have like extremely recent albums. Like,
yes,
really recent album. Like, I think two of the artists may be releasing an album this year. That's like how recent some of these artists are. Like, what's her name? Like, Molly Tuttle is releasing a new album in a few months. I listened to her album from last year. I thought it was fine. But this is the weird thing is like what I think country sounds like, this is bluegrass. Like a lot of the artists, like Billy Strings, he's a bluegrass guy.
100%. Billy Strings is bluegrass. There's really no other way to describe him. What's your experience with bluegrass prior to like Billy Strings and prior to the Ringo album?
Bluegrass is a strange one because like I was like grew up in like the jam band scene, so there is like ties to bluegrass in the jam band scene as like a Wikipedia article I was reading. I know, bad research, but what's saying is that the Grateful Dead, who are an extremely informative, because like my family are big Fish fans.
Okay.
And the Grateful Dead started out as like or I guess Jerry Garcia kind of started out as a bluegrass guy. So
oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes their collaboration with Bob Dylan make a little more sense then.
In terms of bluegrass, I mean, I like bluegrass more than I like most of. I hate saying this, like, because like I don't know a lot about country music, because I like it a lot more than country, because like this is stuff that I kind of recognize as I've like older sounding country, even though I do like the more folky country of like Johnny Cash and other people I listen to. I think the weirdest one I listened to was Lucius. So I listened to Lucius' latest album. That was not a bluegrass album in any way, shape, or form. They are an indie rock band at least that's what I understand. I heard the album before this was a little bit more new wavy.
I listened to Lucius's self-titled most recent release, and I listened to their 2022 album, and I think I listened to a couple of their other singles. Like they did one where they collaborated with Portugal the Band, and there was, I don't know exactly how to describe these folks. New wave is probably closer. There are some elements of kind of like funk and like disco dance to some of what they do.
I would say for their most recent record, that was extremely like funk influenced. I really liked it. I thought that was actually a pretty solid album. Everybody that I did listens to had really solid work across the board. Nothing where I'm like, this is an agonizing experience. Like I was really worried that Larkin Poe was going to be boring.
Okay,
it was fine.
Larkin Poe is kind of more like a heavy kind of blues rock, like I don't know, Skinnerd adjacent, or like what's the band that does Mississippi Queen? I think they're called Mountain. That's kind of what it sounded like to me. So I listened to Bloom, their most recent album. I also listened to their 2022 album Blood Harmony. Of the two albums, I probably preferred Bloom. Like the first couple of tracks on there, like Easy Love was pretty good. But yeah, they kind of have a harder sound. Like you don't really hear as much like fiddling or banjoing on these albums. So they're not bluegrass in that sense. And that's really what, if you were to ask me to define bluegrass, I think you need a banjo or a fiddle in order to kind of be in that genre. One of the albums that we had growing up, we didn't have too many, but one of the CDs that I had access to was the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack. And that's interesting because that was put together, right, by T-Bone Burnett, the same producer as Ringo's album.
He writes most of the songs on this album.
Yep. And it also features, usually in like a duet fashion, it features Alison Krauss, collaborating with some other kind of big names in I guess lady folk country bluegrass. Emmylou Harris. I didn't realize, so one artist that I kind of stumbled into recently is John Hartford, and he's kind of got like a bluegrass edge to him. He was kind of a artist in the, I guess he started getting big in like the 60s and 70s, kind of like almost putting like a psychedelic spin on bluegrass in some ways. And he's on the Oh Brother soundtrack, and I didn't realize that. So that was fun to relearn and rediscover. Yeah, Alison Krauss, I listened to her.
I listened to her as well. I looked at her 1990 album called I've Got the Old Feeling. I listened to that. It was fine. It was good. But then I did listen to Rising Sands when she has a duet album with Robert Plant. I was going to say I'd never heard of this album and it was underrated, but it did win Album of the Year when it came out, so I don't think it's that underrated. T-Bone Burnett also was the producer of this. I think that's slightly important because of how certain things are mixed, where I feel like when T-Bone does like duets with people, sometimes he likes to mix them like so they're kind of overlapping each other.
Sure.
They're not next to each other. They're like literally overlapping with each other. And you hear that a lot on the Ringo album.
Sure.
As well. But Rising Sands, I've never heard it before. Out of all the things I listened to for preparation for this, I was the most impressed with that one.
Gotcha.
Even more than this Ringo album. I was like, this album kicks ass. This is a really good album.
I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and listen to that one, so I'll definitely put that on my list. I listened to her 2017 album Windy City. It was okay. I wasn't like super impressed with it. Like production was good. And there's a decent cover of Gentle on My Mind, going back to John Hartford, who originally wrote and recorded that song made popular by Glenn Campbell. What I was more impressed with her work is she would often collaborate with a band called Union Station. She would kind of hop back and forth between releasing like solo records or releasing records with this group Union Station, and I listened to So Long, So Wrong, Union Station and Alison Krauss's 1997 album, and I really dug that. I thought that was pretty tight and pretty well put together. Overall, what I can say is that like none of these, with maybe the exception of Lucius, I think all of these bands make 100% sense to include on this album. Now, you can make the argument for Lucius because even though like their singles are definitely more like dance and funk and pop inspired, if you listen to some of the vocals on some of their album tracks, like there is like a twinge of like a country element there. They're not uninterested in that genre.
Also, there is a secret collaborator that there's like a lot of collaborators, but Joe Walsh shows up on this album on track 8.
That kind of gives us the lowdown on some of these collaborators. You know, Alison Krauss and Molly Tuttle, you know, to say they're doing the same thing, that's probably not fair, but like of the artists on this album, they're the most probably similar to each other.
And also Alison Krauss only shows up once for harmony vocals. She's not really on this album that much. And Molly Tuttle shows up a lot on this album.
That's true.
She does like harmony vocals, duet vocals, acoustic guitar, and 12-string guitar stuff on different tracks.
Yeah. And I wonder if Alison Krauss was like harder to get because I didn't realize how accomplished she was as a songwriter and a performer.
I just read about that recently too. Like it was saying that she was one of the most winningest Grammy winners until like Beyonce as a female artist.
Yeah, she's got it.
Yeah, she's got it. So, and that's where the elephant in the room. Is this a country album or is this a bluegrass album?
I think it's a country album with a couple of bluegrass songs on here. I don't think all of the songs are bluegrass. I do think that the Billy Strings collaborations definitely lean more bluegrass, but overall, I would just call this country if I had to make a decision.
If you know more about country music and have opinions about country music, we are willing to hear about what your opinions of country music is. We are not the most well-versed in country music.
No.
I had to ask my mom about what country songs that she liked. And a few of them I remembered. I was like, oh, yeah. A lot of female artists, because like my mom listens to a lot of female artists like Faith Hill. I remember hearing This Kiss a lot. Shania Twain, I Feel Like a Woman. I love that song.
And my country background and experience leans a lot older. We listen to a lot of Johnny Cash. To a lesser extent, we had George Strait, Conway Twitty.
And George Strait, I think, is a little bit newer. Like, I think he actually did pretty decently in the 90s.
He's newer, yeah. Tex Ritter, Marty Robbins, Gene Autry. So yeah, my country tends to skew into what is stereotypically called old man country. And when my wife first heard tracks off this album, that's kind of what she put it in. She put it in the old man country bucket. I don't think it's fair to call this old man country. So let's talk about the album in a little more detail here.
So before we start, I want to say I think this is actually a very good album. Like I would say on a good day, and most days, I would say this is between a 7 and an 8. Like I don't think any track on here is bad. I think everything is really listenable. I think the first few songs on here are excellent. I don't think this is as good as Traveling Wilburys, but for the first Ringo album that we did it as a solo one, I think this is a banger for Ringo. Like I think this is actually legitimately a good showcase of his voice. Like every song that he sings on this just makes sense. And I kind of forget because like I don't listen to a lot of like purely Ringo stuff. And I'm like, it's still Ringo at the end of the day. Like even if I don't like how the song sounds, which is very rare because Ringo drums, and I'm like, I know those drums in my soul. I have listened to a lot of Beatles, and that's one thing that I noticed in other country songs that I was listening to is that even like all the other bluegrass stuff is like they don't have Ringo's drums. They don't have this this kind of like percussive moving, that thing that kind of pushes the song along really well that Ringo usually has in a lot of his work. But no, I really like this album. I think it's a pretty good album. What are your thoughts before we get into this?
Overall, I'd say it's good. One thing you have to consider when looking at albums like this, which is going to be true, I think, of a lot of Paul's solo work and a lot of Ringo's solo work, and I know it's true for at least one of John's albums, is what makes an album bad. You know, I and many others would argue that like Two Virgins is bad because it sounds unpleasant, right? But that's not the only way an album can be bad. Sometimes if an album is just boring and does nothing for you, that makes it bad. And
Yeah.
that's really tough. It's really hard to talk about a boring album. But yeah, as far as the Ringo album goes, I think some of the songs are, if not boring, they're kind of inoffensive, and you could call them album filler, perhaps. But for the most part, I kind of liked what I listened to. I will say, the cynic in me, with Breathless and with Look Up, the first two tracks, which I think are the best tracks on the album, personally.
Mm-hmm.
There are some points in the songs where there's like some tape loop or like reverse guitar effect going on, and the cynic in me is saying, oh, are they just doing this because it's Ringo and because like, oh, that's a Beatles thing and this would be a fun thing to put on this solo Beatles record? I don't think it purely comes from that, because Billy Strings does that in some of his solo work in the albums I listened to. Mostly what I listened to with him was the 2017 Turmoil and Tinfoil and the 2019 Home album. I listened to a little bit of a live album he did in 2014 and wasn't as keen on that. I think his studio work is pretty excellent.
Okay, since you're already there, I guess I'll mention what I listened to, because I also listened to that 2017 one. You said it sounded very proggy. It was interesting. That was a little bit more ambitious than anything else I heard on his stuff. I listened to Highway Prayers and Me and Dad, where he played with like his stepdad.
Okay.
And I think his mom shows up on the last song, who I think recently passed away in the last few weeks.
Yes. I didn't listen to those. I listened to Fiddle Tune X, a kind of collaboration live album with a Don Julin, and that felt like the most traditional like bluegrass thing I listened to out of all of this. It didn't feel like it was making any waves, but like Turmoil and Tinfoil I thought was doing some pretty interesting stuff with the genre.
Yeah, so let's just jump into going through these tracks. One thing I do want to mention behind the scenes, we were actually listening to this physically in the same space, which is a very rare thing for us, because we were actually listening to this in a car together, because I was visiting my hometown where Dylan lives recently. So we actually listened to this together.
We've got a master plan for a on the spot review, but that's going to be years in the making. So you're just going to have to sit tight and wait for that.
You don't want to reveal what we're going to do?
Absolutely not.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so Breathless, I'm beguiled. He says I'm beguiled. It's a 10 out of 10 song. If you say I'm beguiled, this song is great. If he says I'm beguiled, I'm going to repeat that again. He says I'm beguiled. It just tickles me in so many ways. He says, I'm beguiled.
You're giving it a 10 out of 10 for one creative lyric choice.
Yeah, it's not as good as the end of the line, but for a Ringo song, saying I'm beguiled, I mean, once again, it's written by T-Bone Burnett. But I'm beguiled is really good. I mean, Breathless is really good. It's really fun. I did have a weird experience with this album from a listening point of view, because I listened to this without just in my headphones. But then I realized when I listened to it earlier today that there's a lot more going on on like the Dolby Atmos. I think my computer has access to that, where I was like, oh, that's weird. I've never heard Billy Strings as much as I have in this song, like doing the harmonies. So that was kind of weird going back and re-listening to this. Like I've now listened to this, like the way I've listened to this I have not heard as much of the album. So it's kind of weird talking about it now, because I'm like, oh, there's stuff this I haven't heard, but I'm still pretty good, because I didn't really miss that much. But it is weird.
Interesting.
Where like the way when you don't have like the Dolby Atmos stuff, like a lot of things kind of collide. And earlier I mentioned the Alison Krauss with Robert Plant album, or Raising Sand, and that also had a very interesting mix where both vocalists are kind of on top of each other, kind of harmonizing, but they're not like doing like the Beach Boys type of harmonizing, where it's just like the vocals are kind of on top, so they kind of sound like they're very similar because they're singing the same thing, and it's kind of a way of making up for maybe Ringo's range at times, because I know a lot of artists who are older have somebody in the band that can sing that makes it so they make up for some of the faults of their singing.
Sure, right. Kind of somebody doing an alternate melody take. I mean, I think that was even true with Paul. I think when we got the opportunity to saw him tour for the new album, that was the title of the album, was New.
Yeah.
I think he was taking the lower harmony part a lot of the times and was having other people in the band sing kind of the higher part that he would have sung like in the studio, particularly on like Beatles tracks. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, Paul performs so much, and you got to protect your voice, and you don't want to make an ass of yourself trying to hit notes that you were able to hit at 16 that you're not able to hit anymore.
Yeah, I liked when Billy Joel talked about when he's like, I wrote Innocent Man when I was in my early 30s. I didn't realize that, when I get old, I will not be able to hit those high notes as well. So bear with me, everybody. We'll experience this together when I went and saw him in 2024. He did a good job. I think he was underselling how he can still kind of do it. He can do it in a live setting decent enough. But he's another guy that's performed an insane amount.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, some artists definitely get a lot more fulfillment from performing live. Paul does. George
A lot of money in
didn't. Ringo, I think, is kind of in like a happy medium. Like him and the All-Star Band, like they get around, but I don't think it's like Ringo's entire life either. What do we think of the title track, Look Up?
Look Up. The guitar part's really good. That
Yeah,
Look
that
Up.
fuzzy guitar.
Yeah, Look Up. I thought it was all right. You know, Molly Tuttle does a really good job of whenever she shows up, especially the parts where she kind of comes in after Ringo talk. I think she adds a nice texture to this song that I really enjoy. It's good.
I think this might be my favorite song on the album. Like, I go back and forth between this and Breathless, but I think they're starting off the album really, really strong.
You know, let's move on to the next one. Time on My Hands. It's the longest track, I guess. It's fine. Once again, it's a little slow. It's maybe the most forgettable.
This has a lot more slide guitar.
Yeah.
The I think this was the track that might have been playing when the wife said, "This sounds like old man country." And if this was the song you were listening to, that's a fair argument.
Yeah, because this is the one where it feels like we finally have to bring in the country mix.
Mix the country western slider up to 11.
Yeah, because like I feel like we were getting like kind of pop, like more poppy country for the first two tracks. This one feels like a little bit more of a classical. Now that we've decided it's not a bluegrass album, this one sounded extremely because a time on my hands.
Right. It's very traditional in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, as far as like a new take on a traditional country song, that makes it sound like this is a cover. It's not. What I mean to say is, like, you know, putting out a new song that sounds like a traditional country song, I think it does a fine job. It's got like the strings sound the part, the slide guitar is effective. It's not bad. It's not so slow or dull as to put you to sleep, I don't think. I think it does everything it should.
It's not like the Twitter and the Monkey Man, which I want to forgive because on my drive to California I kind of had more appreciation of that song. But that song is still a little too long at times. I'm just saying. But this song, I don't think was. I think there is like the weird ephemeral where it just kind of drifts away, where it doesn't really stick with you, but it just kind of drifts away. You're like, oh, that was fine. It doesn't stick with you.
Well, I wonder if it has stuck with people, because my friend, the Spotify statistics.
Wow, Spotify statistics shows up again.
Will tell you that this is actually the most played song on the album.
I guess like if this is like for old people, this is there is like a lot of like reminiscing, like looking back.
Do you think it's the most played because this is the first song on the album that's solely credited to Ringo as a performer and doesn't have collaborators on it? People were interested in, what does pure, unadulterated Ringo sound like?
That's a good theory. I really like that theory, which I think people are really looking at. For people, not for Breathless and Look Up not being the most listened to, I think people have problems if that's not the most listened to. I have nothing against Time on My Hands. This is like I said, this is a very weird album to talk about, because like I will defend people who, if people say this is a bad album, like, no, this is an obvious album. It is not a bad album. It's an obvious. It's so obvious to make this album.
For whatever it's worth, Look Up is number 2 in listens.
Good.
And Breathless is number 4 in listens.
Interesting. So is the last track the third?
Yes, that's correct.
I figured. I thought that would be quite high up.
Pretty high ranking.
So we're going to move on to Never Let Me Go. I remember the Never Let Me Go.
Got some good harmonica in it, and for a moment I thought they were gonna like break into like a pseudo Love Me Do sort of thing, but they don't, and that's fine.
I mean, Billy Strings, I mean, I do want to say I do think he's a talented guy, like extremely talented on the acoustic guitar.
Oh, no doubt.
I am sadly not a big acoustic guitar guy. I like my electric guitar, and I actually kind of like my acoustic guitars actually being somewhat boring, because I've had a weird relationship with folk music where I kind of of turned away from acoustic guitar because I wasn't a fan of 90s country.
When Dylan went electric, you were like, hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah. I was there. I was there.
You were there for that concert. That's good.
But no, I think Billy Strings is extremely talented. He's just not my jam. I think that 2017, if you wouldn't have brought up that one, would have been a little bit more indifferent. But there was some interesting stuff on that 2017 album that I was like, oh, this is actually a little bit more interesting. Where at times I'm like, he's like metal bluegrass. Where he's like almost too technically good at times, where it almost is distracting how technically good he is. Where I'm like, oh, just slow it down.
Well, and like the prog stuff, it's like one of the tracks he had on the album was like basically 7 minutes of just like guitar and fiddle solos. Yeah, there were a couple of tracks like that.
Yeah. No, he's interesting. Like my mom and my great uncle, who's also a big Beatles fan, and my uncle are big Billy Strings guys. I think my great uncle may have told my mom about him. Yeah.
Next song?
Yeah.
I Live for Your Love is so far the slowest song that we've seen.
The harmonies are good though. Harmonies are pretty good on this song with Molly Tuttle. The Molly Tuttle's harmonies I think on this are good. I enjoy this song quite a bit actually. I think it's all right.
I think it's fine. I don't know that it's one that I would seek out to listen to on its own, but I think of the artists on this album, I like her harmonies with Ringo the best. Now, granted, she has more opportunities for that. She has 1, 2, 3, 4 different songs that she sings with him. So maybe there's some like weight bias there, but I think I do enjoy like the vocal aspect of her songs more so than the others.
Yeah, I think she's fine. No, this is a fine song. If you don't have much else to say, we can just move on, I think.
Sure, go for it.
Come Back.
Starts with that lonely whistle. It's like very
yeah.
That's like 40s, like Bob Nolan. It's like tumbling tumbleweeds and cool water. It's like, late 40s, early 50s country and Western.
I like this song. I think I think this should be an underrated, like, if we're going to the rankings. I think it's actually a pretty decent song. When, like, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I like this song. Come Back. And like, the chorus of the song is really fun.
I wish that, there was a market for, artists are all the time putting their albums out on vinyl, even though like it's an antiquated format or whatever. And they've started to go back a little bit further into the vaults. They've put out cassette tapes as well, which don't sound as good. I could have a whole rant on how like modern cassette tapes suck and aren't as good as the old ones, but we won't do that here. I wish that artists would this song, I want a 78 of this song. I want like it extra scratchy, kind of sound like crap. I want to throw it on a Victrola, with all my other like old country music. It fits in really good with that, and it's good. It's really good. It's solid.
Oh, I'm happy you like it. I was really impressed with it. Track 7. Track 7, I think for us is the most forgettable song on this, even though we like Molly Tuttle. Yeah, I don't remember much of this one at all. Can you hear my call? I'll look at the lyrics of this one really quick.
I'm listening to it.
'Cause I have in the morning. Okay, I like this song. Hey, I take it back. Even though I forgot this song, I like this song a lot. Never mind. That's the problem with this album, is I kind of forget it.
But it's not bad. Like, if any of these songs came on, like, I've got them all liked on Spotify now. So if I just play all my liked songs, any one of these could come up at any time, and I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't skip one because, like, oh no, this song's no good. Yeah, that's all I got. It's good. Rosetta is heavy. This is the first Larkin Poe collaboration, and like it's got electric guitar more so heavily featured, which we haven't had in the other
songs.
That's because of their kind of like blues rock background. With Rosetta, you get like a little bit of like, I don't know, Rosetta does have electric guitar in it though.
I have a weird connection to this, not because of the song. Where I'll tell a quick story where I became a big soccer fan in 2015-16, and I watched some YouTubers, and I had to interact with one of the strangest words because they pronounce Z as Zed when it's by itself. And that confused the crap out of me.
Right. That's very British or I think even the Canadians do it potentially.
Because they talked about, like, there was this while they kept on saying, yeah, that was kicked into Rosette. And I'm like, what? What's Rosette? And then I realized, oh, they're talking about Rosie. So whenever I hear Rosetta, I think of Rosette. That might ruin the song. I still like this song, but that I feel really bad for Ringo and all the people who contribute to this song, that I think about stadium seating when I hear this song. Sorry, Rosetta. Rosetta. It's a good song, though.
You know what? I might like this song more than I thought I did.
This album has a way when you re-listen to it at times, as we've had to do a little bit during the recording of this, of like creeping back into you, being like, oh yeah, this song is really cool.
Yeah. Rosetta's cool, and I know this is basically what I've already said, but look, it's like the heaviest song on the album, and I think that's neat, and I like it for it. It's good. Moving on.
Yeah, you want some. Okay, this song is also kind of funny because you want some. Oh, baby, yeah, you want some. I was doing a little dance. You can't see that, listeners, but Dylan gave me a disapproving look.
It was a beautiful dance. If only we had a video portion of the podcast. So with the opening of this song, with the piano and the drums doing what they're doing, I feel like they're going to break into Kansas City. Not the Beatles version, which is like a really fast, hard rockin' version, but like I don't even know if it's the original, but the version like we had was by, I think, Wilbert Harrison, and it's like early 50s, and it's just dun 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 dun. I'm gonna Kansas City, here I come.
Beautiful.
And I swear that's where the song is going, and then it doesn't. And I don't know, maybe that's like intentional, like maybe they're trying to like do little like samples or like flavors of like well-beloved country classics as they're writing these songs. I just find it interesting. This is the only other song, by the way, solely attributed to Ringo, with no collaborators.
Yeah, that was interesting.
This song doesn't get a lot of love. This is the least liked one on the Spotify ranks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think this song is pretty fun. Like, the chorus is fun.
What's your least favorite song on the album?
It might be Time on My Hands.
Really? That might be your least favorite?
I don't know. This one's really hard to like say, because like I think it's whole, like everything kind of makes up for it.
On the average, they're all pretty decent.
What's your least favorite?
I think it is I Live for Your Love for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and obviously we've both established that there's nothing wrong with that song.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we like it. I just like it the least.
It's hard to say. It's hard to be mean to this record for me. I'm just like, no, this album is fine. It's consistent. It knows what it is. And it's hard to just diss it as easily as other records that we will have to listen to eventually.
For sure.
So String Theory is pretty good. I don't know. This is another one that I think I could have put, but I was listening to it again and I'm like, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, String Theory is, I don't know, kind of jangly, if we want to use that description.
It has a pleasant little guitar part. This is another electric one, right? Because it's Larkin Poe.
Right. Yeah. This one's got a little bit of an electric edge to it. But of the two electric songs, this definitely skews more traditional country. Like the slide guitar is a lot more prominent, and it's just kind of a groove.
I think I like where this song goes. I think it just kind of vibes with like the ring, like there's a lot of Ringoisms where it just feels kind of like peace and love, where we're all vibrating above vibrating strings, everything dreams and radiate beams. I'm like, yeah, that's Ringo saying, yeah, we all connect to songs, you know? It's fun.
It's good. It's a song about guitar strings. There was another, I think, Billy Strings song about like guitar strings, or like breaking strings or restringing a guitar. So we could put those in a playlist with Cold Dry Places and just have a playlist of songs about the mechanics of the instruments.
Thankful is the Alison Krauss duet. You don't really hear her a lot. She just kind of harmonizes. I think it's a very lovely song. I do wonder if he's talking about us in this song, like where it's like, I'm thankful for the love you've shown, your love for me I've never known. Thankful for the stars above, hoping for peace and love. Thankful when the sun is shining. Day by day I'm really trying. Thankful for the moment here. thankful you are here. It could be a love song, but I also do think Ringo is, I don't know, talking about us.
Thanking the fans.
Yeah.
Who's the other person he's because he's harmonizing with another guy in that song? Is that T-Bone?
It is Daniel Tashian, who also wrote some stuff.
Okay. Yeah, Allison is barely in this song.
Yeah.
Like she kind of shows up at the end a little bit and like at the end of some verses. But for the most part it's either Ringo or Ringo and Daniel.
Mm-hmm. It's decent album ender. It's no end of the line, but it's still a good album ender, and that's an unfair comparison, I think.
You can't compare everything to End of the Line. That is setting yourself up for failure. You can.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either.
So overall, this it's all right. It's all right. You know, mid has a negative connotation if you were to describe an album as mid. So I don't think that's accurate. But to call it average also feels insulting somehow. I don't know the best way to describe this.
I would see between a 7 or 8. I think it is at times 8 worthy. And times 7 worthy. I think everything on here is good. Nothing is purely bad. That's why our discussion about what was the least favorite song was kind of hard to have, because there's a lot to love. I think there's a lot to love and a lot to like. And there's really nothing on here that upsets me or fills me with dread that I have to listen to it ever again.
I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
So join us next time when we look at Paul McCartney's Vanity Film Project, where we discuss meta movies and Victorian dates. We're very thankful for you being here with us today. Of course, if you enjoyed what you hear and you'd like to hear more, give us a like, give us a follow. We really appreciate your time and attention. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Bye.
And goodbye.